Their patent sucks. So what's the first thing you do if you want to invalidate it? My name is Steve Hansen. I've been a practicing patent attorney for over 25 years. Not only do I write patents, but I tear apart other people's patents in litigation. If you like this content, please do me a favor and like, follow, and share. So, when I have a client who is confronted with a patent, somebody's asserting a claim of infringement, or we just are worried that there might be one, the first thing I do is look for foreign counterparts of the patent at issue. So, for a lot of inventions, you will file patent applications not only in the United States, but in a variety of other countries. You typically do that. You file in the U.S. first, and then you typically file in the other countries. If you're a U.S. company, if you're a foreign company, you tend to file in your location and then file in the U.S. later. But the point is that for patents, there's typically a family of patents that include patents that might be in places like Europe or Japan or China or South Korea or Mexico, Australia, wherever. All the different countries have their own patent offices. And so I look for what the foreign counterpart patents are or applications, and then I look at their file histories to see what happened. And the reason I do that is because I'm looking for things that might provide a basis for invalidating the U.S. patent that is at issue for my client. Now, what could happen that would be helpful in a foreign prosecution? Well, first of all, there may be prior art that patent office turned up that wasn't brought to light in the U.S. prosecution, and which is stronger or more significant than the prior art that was at issue in the prosecution. For a number of years, the common wisdom was that the European Patent Office did much better searches than the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, and that there was likely to be better prior art that was asserted against a foreign counterpart in Europe than in the U.S. That was true in my experience earlier in my career. I don't see that quite as much now, but nevertheless, there are situations where you will find that the European counterpart had some better prior art that was asserted. Second, even if the same piece of prior art was asserted in the U.S. and in a foreign patent office, you may find that the patent holder took inconsistent or somehow conflicting positions before the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office and before one of those other foreign patent offices about what the scope and content of that prior art reference was. And you can use that potentially to impeach them here, and in some cases you can use that to raise a claim of inequitable conduct if they did not disclose to the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office what those inconsistent positions were. And sometimes what you find happens is they could not get the same claims allowed in the Foreign Patent Office because of that prior art, and they had to have narrower claims that may not cover your client's product, and that's a great situation when you find out that happened. But there's other things that could come up too, like representations that the patent owners make about the scope of the disclosure of their own patent application and what it meant. But it's a really good place to start to look for evidence of invalidity. So I'm going to show you a way that you can look for foreign counterpart patents for free. I don't know if you can do every patent this way, but certainly anything that's ever filed in Europe you could do this for. So what I do is I go through the European Patent Office website, epo.org, and then I look for the counterparts there, and I look for the European file history, but it can also show me what the other foreign countries are where there's counterparts, and then I can go to their websites and look for the file histories there. So I'm going to show you how to look for the European counterpart file history for a Kong patent that we've looked at in earlier videos for a treat dispenser. This is the Kong patent, U.S. patent 8225747 for a treat dispenser. Okay, and I'm going to show you how to look for the European counterparts file history from the European Patent Office website. All right, so you go to epo.org. That's the homepage for the European Patent Office website. This is the mobile version I'm using. You can do this on a desktop or laptop. It'll look a little different. Grab the hamburger in the upper right-hand corner and click on Searching for Patents. Then you click on Technical Information and this eSpaceNet patent search, and then click on Overview, and it takes you to the search facility. And so you'll see midway down the page, there's a black box that says Open eSpaceNet. And then in the upper part of the page, there's a search bar. All right, so this is the bibliographic data for the U.S. patent. Even though we're in the European Patent Office, I searched for the U.S. patent. Here's the record for it. Now, if you look near the bottom of the page, you see published as. This shows you the other countries that this, for which there are counterparts to this U.S. patent. You'll see there are counterparts in Australia, Canada, China, Europe, and there's a PCT application. So if I want to look at the European Patent Office file history for the European equivalent, I go to EP2488013, A1 or B1, it doesn't matter. I click on it. Now I have the bibliographic data for the European patent, and near the top of the page, underneath bibliographic data, you'll see an I and a circle that says Global Dossier. You select that. And now I have the file history for the proceedings for the European counterpart to the U.S. Kong patent. And you can see here that a whole lot of stuff happened in Europe. A lot of claim amendments, and they even had to go to what's called oral proceedings in Europe in order to get this allowed. So there's a good chance that either there's prior art that was here that may not have been in the U.S. application, or that they made statements about that prior art that you might be able to use against them in the U.S. But, if you look through the office actions and the responses to those office actions, sometimes that provides you fertile ground for finding a way to attack the validity of the U.S. patent. So that's how you do that. That's how you look up the file history of a European counterpart. Like I said, if you find from what I just showed you that there's a counterpart in a different place like Japan or China, they have their own websites typically with an English version, and you can go there and see what the file histories are. Now the documents, the office actions and the responses will typically be in that country's language, so you may have to start with like a machine translation if possible, or get the document translated. But you can also look there to see what happened in those offices. I hope that helps to keep you out of trouble, and I hope to see you here soon.